What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Hopefully, everyone's having a good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be, and grinding away on this third week of February. What I thought I would do today is take some lessons that we learned from the 2024 season because we're a couple days away from, last year in the Super Bowl. That's over. This we got to put the season to bed and we're full steam ahead. I mean, once the combine hits, we're off and running to 2025 free agency, the draft, which is fun, which is obviously next week. So I thought we'd do not necessarily a look back, but just three or four things that really stood out to me last year that I think we can apply moving forward. There are a couple other things that popped up in terms of a new team headed to Brazil. I think Raj, the NFL owners, they like that international kickoff Friday night. And listen, I'm not going to hate. So we basically get football Thursday night, Eagles game. Friday night, talk about the team coming up. Saturday, college football. Sunday, NFL. Monday, NFL. I mean, life could be worse. That week cannot come fast enough. Not going to lie. And then a couple other things. Netflix, could they get involved with Sunday games moving forward? Looks like it might be a possibility. So, lot going on. Well, actually, not really. I mean, it's slow time in the football world, but it's about to really pick up next week with rumors flying from draft picks to the measurements to the workouts to potential trades. We've had a lot of trades conducted, executed, and this is when the conversations really pick up at the combine next week. So basically, this week, these GMs and the coaching staffs and the scouting staffs are really kind of finalizing information they have for the potential rookies, questions, any red flags going into the combine. And then the pro departments are really kind of finalizing their free agency board, who they want, who are must haves. Because at the end of the day, for most teams, I mean, it depends how much money you have, but you're targeting, the good teams target two or three players and maybe one or two big quote unquote splashy players. And let's face it, there aren't like super famous guys that often hit true free agency, but guys that you target, guys that you want, and yeah, that's kind of how you attack it, and it all kind of funnels up. I guess you work hand in hand with your GM as a department and your coaching staff, so everyone's got to get on the same page. The Eagles, yeah, a couple hangovers. This is probably a busy week, for Howie, Sirianni, and the boys in Philly. Same with Veach and everybody. So it comes at you fast, furious. Think of all the shitty teams, the advantage they have had being. I mean, it's February 19th, right? I mean, so the bad teams, especially if you didn't need a coach like the Giants, who just kept everybody, like they've been working for a month and a half. So if they can't get this right, maybe they never will. I wanted to start back with just some big lessons and themes that I think we can take away from 2024 and apply it moving forward. And I think the biggest theme of 2024 was the explosion of the running backs. And there's this quote, I try to keep a little quote log in the phone, and sometimes I go back and, things to spark the mind. And there's something that I wrote down a long time ago that, sticks with me to this day. And it's that fortunes are made in the down markets and they're collected in the up markets. So basically, you buy things for cheap when disaster strikes, and those appreciate as times turn. And I think you saw that with the running backs, right? It was a situation where these wide receivers were making 30 to 35 million dollars, and they were more than doubling high-end superstar running backs value. Despite these guys running for 12 to 1500 yards, uh, catching and scoring a bunch of touchdowns on the ground, They were clearly very important players. The problem was their risk for injury was dramatically higher than wide receivers. But it's been proven, and it was definitely proven this year, that like you get a really good, impactful running back, they're the best deal in American sports right now because they do not cost any money relative to other impact players. Star tackles cost 25 to 30 million dollars. Pass rushers are going to cost 35 to 40. Wide receivers cost 30 to 35. Yet you can get Saquon Barkley for basically $13 million dollars a year. You could get Derrick Henry, a Hall of Famer, for $8 million dollars. You could get Josh Jacobs, who's, I don't know, one of the better all around players in the NFL, for a $12.5 million dollars signing bonus. Like, that was crazy. And no team benefited as much as the Eagles from, coming in and getting Saquon Barkley for less than $30 million dollars. Think how many guys on their team make more than $30 million dollars guaranteed. Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, obviously the wide receivers, the quarterback, the tight end, guys, over the course of their careers. I know Fletcher retired, but, their defensive lineman, Jalen Carter, will surely get that. Slay back in the day when he was getting big contracts. So, like, you got Saquon Barkley, who pound for pound is whenever the quote unquote top 100, which, let's face it, is just off-season content and can be kind of stupid. But like Saquon Barkley is going to be pretty high on that list. He's going to be really high on that list. Just like 2 years ago, Christian McCaffrey was really high on that list. Because when you get a guy who can do it all, you can ride him to the promised land. And when you have a really good offensive line or a good offensive schemer, you can take advantage of it. But to me, why these running backs are so valuable is they don't cost any money. Like, I love all these people, and it's one thing if you don't have the money, but people that did have the resources, like, God, I should have bought more real estate in 2009, 2010, 2011. Well, some people did. you know, People like me had no money, not that I was even thinking to, wasn't even an option. But there were people that did have the option and were like, it's too scary. This is not a good decision. And there were people that did and then dramatically benefited over the next decade. Just like when stocks crash, a lot of people run. Some people view it as a sale. And I think Howie Roseman, who's widely considered the best general manager, looked at Saquon Barkley like a fucking bargain. Same thing with the Packers. Like, wait, you're getting rid of Aaron Jones for Josh Jacobs? Yeah, he's an upgrade, and he doesn't cost much money. The Henry thing, I mean, he was just older. Anyone could have had him. He got $8 million guaranteed. And listen, this doesn't just go for running backs as well. Like, part of being a successful operation, I would say in anything in life, sometimes you got to get some deals on things that then turn out to be pretty fruitful. You can't always pay a premium and expect a premium. Sometimes, like, you got to, damn, I got that for pretty cheap and it worked out. I would say that's a formula in any industry. You can call it luck. You can call it good timing, whatever it may be. Like the Minnesota Vikings got Sam Darnold this year for $10 million. dollars. And while his last couple games were not great, he had a fantastic season and was an MVP candidate for $10 million dollars at quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa just got over $200 million. dollars. Trevor Lawrence literally got $200 million dollars guaranteed. Last year, Gardner Minshew and Joe Flacco, I don't think, made a combined $10 million. dollars. And Flacco led the Browns to the playoffs, and Gardner Minshew had them a couple plays away. So, like, you need to get bargain deals with impact players in the NFL. Obviously, the Eagles, it wasn't even just Saquon Barkley. They got Zach Bond for nothing. He turned into an all-pro. Mekhi Becton, once a top 10 pick, looked like he was just going to be a flame out and just a throwaway player. They move him to guard, and he's a key player on the best offensive line in the NFL. So it's like we talk a lot about the high price guys and the guys making, all this money. The TJ Watts, the Bosa's, the Chris Joneses, the CD Lambs, the you name it, right? Justin Jefferson's. Like, to be really good, you got to have some guys on some bargain deals that then not only exceed expectations, become like all Pro Bowl level guys. And that was on full display this year. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Jacobs, Sam Darnold, teams that were really, really good. Obviously, the Eagles were the best team, but all these other teams, playoff teams, right in the mix, competing for the best records in the NFL. all had impact players on very, very cheap deals. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are. With the all new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From dunks to assists to rebounds, get behind your favorite player and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like picking how many points your favorite player will have. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook and make your first pick. First time? Here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get 150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN, that's code JOHN, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Listen, I'm guilty of this. We're all guilty of this. We all say it, and we're going to continue to say it, and it's never going to stop. It's a quarterback league. You don't have a chance without a quarterback. Well, yeah, you need a quarterback, someone to play that position. True. And I agree. Like you need a really good player at the position. You can't compete with a bottom 10 quarterback in the NFL. But what makes football so special is this is not basketball. I can't just, if I give you Michael Jordan or Shaquille O'Neal in his prime or Nikola Jokic or whoever, Steph Curry in his prime, Kevin Durant, more than likely your team's going to be pretty good. And more than likely, if you just do a decent job building it, your team's going to be really good. In football, there is no guarantee because we saw Joe Burrow have an elite season. He was in the MVP mix, and his team did not make the playoffs. He threw 43 touchdown passes. To put that into perspective, Patrick Mahomes threw 26. Yet Patrick Mahomes' team was the number one overall seed, and if they didn't throw the last game, could have gone 16-1. Yet Joe Burrow had to claw, scratch, and bite his way to just get above 500. This is a team sport, and it's the ultimate team sport. You cannot do it on your own. And listen, you need Mahomes, you need Joe Burrow, you need Lamar Jackson, you need Josh Allen. I'm not arguing against that. No one would. But you need a good team. You need good defensive players. You need good coaching on that side of the ball. You need good coaching on the offensive side of the ball. There are so many pieces in this sport that not one man can carry you. We literally saw it with Joe Burrow, who was having an unreal year, and they were losing games because they couldn't stop a nosebleed. And I think it was on full display this year with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, you could argue, wasn't even a top five quarterback all season. Obviously, we all consider him the top quarterback, but just based on this individual season in a vacuum, like he was okay. Now, you could argue it wasn't all his fault. The offensive line wasn't great, running for his life most of the year. But they were a good team. They're a well-run operation. And that operation carried them all the way to the Super Bowl, where they met a team that was also a well-run operation who just had way more talent and kicked their ass. But I think we talk about the quarterback, the quarterback, the quarterback. Is your team any good? Like, do you have good players? Do you have good coaches? Because if you don't, like, this isn't LeBron James in his prime. I don't give a shit. Like, we can beat you if we got a better team. And that's what makes, I would say, football so unique, so fun to watch because there are so many different variables at play. Um, I've said this forever. Like, I don't relate very well to cheap rich people. Like, I don't, I can't comprehend their way of thinking. And I don't mean like drawing a line on certain things, like having certain expenses that we're just not going to pay that for that. Like, obviously certain things don't impact whatever your industry is. It's like we don't need to stay in the Four Seasons. We can just stay at the Marriott, right? Or some executive like, listen, I can stay. I don't need to ride first class. It's like, yeah, that's your prerogative. I maybe it doesn't impact ultimately your business, right? I saw Deion Sanders. Uh, he saved Colorado like over $200,000 because he doesn't recruit in the sense of he doesn't go to any high schools and he doesn't go to any living rooms. So he's like, he gets a budget that he gets whatever, $250,000 of private aviation if he wants to go recruit. He didn't use any of it. And he said, one, like that's not how I run my operation. I don't, the value there for us, I don't need to do that. And two, like I'm a businessman. Like I don't just view like these resources as just unlimited. Like I understand, like anytime that I can save the university money, it benefits us big picture. Like I look at it that way. But in football, non-player by far the most important person you can have in your building is the head coach. And we see over and over and over again teams go cheap at that position. And when you do, then everyone complains like, why do we suck? It's because I don't know, that position kind of matters. And the going rate for good ones in college football is now 10 to 12 million dollars. In the NFL, it's 15 to 20. So when you have a coach making 5, 6, $7 million, more often than not, you have no fucking chance. And listen, these owners have proven, some of them with artificial turf at their stadium. They don't even have the nicest version. So they will go cheap. And you can be like, well, rich guys didn't just waste money. I agree. No one's asking them to just buy 50 Lamborghinis for the hell of it. But if you're not going to invest in the best turf, when you have a payroll of $250 million in terms of players, and the business model of the NFL is literally the games, like I'm sorry, I red flag some of your decision making. And when some of these organizations constantly go cheap at coach, when you have the opportunity to pay, I don't know, Jim Harbaugh, but what is Jim Harbaugh? He's expensive. And it's why I give the Chargers credit forever. It was like, how can we get a cheap guy that we kind of like? Brandon Staley, he'll cost 5 million. Anthony Lynn, he'll cost 4 million. Mike McCoy, he'll cost 3 million. It's like, and then you guys wonder why you fire him after every 2 or 3 years. And finally, they broke the bank for Jim Harbaugh. And they went from a team drafting number 5 overall that was an absolute joke to being the 5 seed. And Sean Payton, the Walton family that does have unlimited resources, goes, yeah, we're not going to go cheap at coach. Sean Payton, what's it cost to get you? He's like, it's not going to be cheap. $90 million. Okay, here's a check. You're in charge. 2 years later, rookie quarterback in the playoffs. First time for Denver in a decade. And, I thought it was on full display with the LA Rams. McVay's team, look at what he's dealing with. He's dealing with a 37-year-old Matt Stafford. Cooper Kupp fell off a cliff, so he's got a Puka Nakua, who they drafted in the third or fourth round. They're dependent on rookies on the defensive line. And they were a player or two away from literally beating the champs on the road in a snowstorm. Coaching really matters. And it's not shocking when you look at, the final four, the final eight. It's the Andy Reeds making 20 million. It's the John Harbaughs making 16, 17 million. It's Sean McDermott probably making 14, 15 million. It's Sean McVay. Nick Sirianni's a little bit of an outlier, but guess what Nick Sirianni's going to want this offseason? A raise. It's like, hey guys, I've been in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. You can say how he runs the show, but like I'm kind of the head coach. So do I get $15 million? And that's going to be an interesting conversation, but don't go cheap with things that matter. And I would use that in any walk of life. And I think like I'm not acting like you should just blow money left and right, especially people with money, but things that impact directly your business and things that impact it the most, when you cut corners on that, you deserve to lose in any industry. And I think football, it is on full display. Uh, Pay high level coaches. And I think last but not least, and we've known this forever, but we talk about it a lot on like the mailbag when this time of year comes around. It's like, oh, how sweet is that wide receiver? How awesome would that dude, McMillan from Arizona, be? How about this dude from Missouri? Get me that wide receiver from Ohio State. Like, shouldn't, I know it's not as sexy, but shouldn't we just take that right tackle in the first round? It's pick 24. I would love to have that wide receiver, but couldn't this guy be my starting center for the next decade? And so many teams talk that talk. They act like that's their philosophical belief in football. The trenches. We're going to build the trenches. And then they draft a wide receiver. It's like, what are you doing? And it was on full display last year in the draft with Ryan Poles, who played offensive line. And when he played offensive line in college, he protected Matt Ryan. So I understand taking Caleb Williams and trying to get him help surrounding him, but it doesn't matter if he's got Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin, and Shannon Sharp running around out there. If you can't protect him, you don't have a shot, especially with a guy that kind of holds on to the football. And you can't tell me, and listen, I love Rome Odunze. I'm pro wide receiver. I like wide receivers. Like I enjoy the position. I have a lot of respect for it. But it's going to happen again this year where it's like you take a wide receiver high when you need linemen. This you could argue defensive linemen too. You only have yourself to blame when you're pissed off in week 6 that you can't protect anybody. And I think the best teams not only value that position, but live by that motto. Listen, I've seen it with the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan believes that offensive linemen, you can scheme around them, and you need skill guys. It's like, yeah, I agree. You need skill people to score points, but if you can't protect people, you're in you're up shit's creek without a paddle. And I'm just pro drafting those guys over and over again and letting the cream rise. I don't think you can ever draft enough offensive and defensive linemen. So listen, as we move forward, these are things that, when you talk about down markets, what will that position be? I think anytime you can get a good linebacker or a good safety, they just don't cost that much money. And most of these other positions, like you're paying beachfront real estate prices, right? That's if you want a top wide receiver. It's like T. Higgins, let's just say, rumors are that he might get franchised, but if he hit the open market, I mean, he would get so much money, your jaw would hit the floor. So it's like when these guys hit the open market, you do have to pay probably an extra premium because they're a free agent and you got other guys bidding against them, let alone the position they play. You have no problem doing that for the Micah Parsons, the Miles Garrett's, the Lane Johnsons, the Trent Williams, the Tristan Wirfs. Like you don't even hesitate with alignment, but sometimes with a wide receiver, you're like, is this the best allocation of assets? Not because the guy's not a good player, because well, can I find a really good player in like the second or third round? And the answer always is yes, you can. The answer is 100% yes, you can. So I think the running back market's still moving forward. And anytime you can get these guys for cheap, you got to think long and hard because if you do have a good offensive line, they can change the game. I mean, look at the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs has become, the young version of like Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey. He can catch the ball, he can run the ball inside and out. He's so fast. He's such a dynamic playmaker in space and he's going to count if he stays healthy for the next couple of years. I would say 15 to 18 touchdowns a year. Like it's kind of important. Look at some of the top wide receivers. It's like, oh, he caught 7 touchdowns. He caught 9 touchdowns. Well, this guy's getting me 15. Can I tell you about my friends at Mando? They've taken care of me for a long time now. And listen, it's Arizona. It gets really hot, and I get very sweaty. And that's where my friends at Mando, they come in with the deodorant wipes. How about the deodorant spray? And just the whole body deodorant that you just put a little bit on. You can put it under your pitch. You can put it on your arms. You can put it on your balls. And I cannot recommend it enough. It's clinically proven to block odor all day. No one wants to smell. Created by a doctor, all products, baking soda free. So clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap. How do you beat that? 12 hours after a shower, you're still smelling good. I cannot recommend these guys enough. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes. Love those wipes. And free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off starter pack using the code JOHN, that's JOHN, at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Okay, a couple little things. The Chargers. The NFL loves this Brazil game. Never been to Brazil. I mean, looks like a beautiful place. And clearly the NFL enjoys Brazil, and maybe they got a growing fan base down there. But the Chargers, the Eagles did it last year, or did the Packers do it last year? I forget whose home game that was. I think it was Green Bay's. Could be wrong. But this will be the Chargers, so clearly they're going to go AFC, NFC every year. Try to keep it, equitable. And The Chargers will host that Brazil game, which one thing the NFL is going to do, the opening game Thursday night's BP fastball. Like it doesn't get any easier. You take the Super Bowl champion and then you just pick some sweet team on their schedule. Like this year, it's like Chiefs Ravens. I was like, yeah, that'll work. I mean, this year will be like Eagles. You could go Eagles Commanders. You could go Eagles. I think they play the Rams. You can pick a million teams. It's an easy one. You pick any sweet team on their schedule. A couple years ago it was Chiefs Lions. It's not shit. You could do uh Eagles could play like the local high school and 20 million people will watch. We're so football starved. But that second game, I think they kind of gave the blueprint. Eagles Packers. What was that? Matchup of two playoff teams. And I would expect the Chargers, like I would expect another playoff team. I wouldn't expect like Chargers Jags, or Chargers Bears or something. I don't even know who's on their schedule, but I would be stunned if it's not another team that was in the playoffs last year. I honestly, I think you could go maybe they're anti doing division matchups in these games, but because of the Chargers home game, why couldn't you do Chargers Denver? Uh, I don't know. I would say most things would be on the table. Chargers Chiefs probably would not happen, but it wouldn't totally shock me if that were to happen. The chief content officer from Netflix gave a did an interview. I think I don't know if it was with the Ringers podcast that covers kind of the kind of content industry or variety. Oh, variety was a different something else I read, but yeah, it was with I think the Puck, and he mentioned that their interest in NFL games is moving forward is basically I'm giving the Cliff Notes version of like they would be very interested in the Sunday package and talking about like Sunday night or Sunday afternoon games and essentially that the NFL has an opt out of their contract in 2029. Well, a couple years ago that sounded like it was a long, long way away, but it's 2025. By 2029, I might have like a 3-year old. So Netflix, this was always going to be an issue. Is that these older owners, like the Jerry Jones, the Robert Krafts, I would put Mark Davis. I would put anyone over 60, 65 through their 70s and 80s. Their loyalty to Fox, CBS, and NBC runs fucking deep because when they go home to their third mansion in Aspen or some Italian village or get on their hundreds of millions of dollars worth of yachts, it's because of those networks. Well, those networks, I'm sorry, are probably not all going to survive as we move forward. And definitely the power in which they have had most of my life is diminishing by the day. And operations like Netflix aren't just coming on, they're establishing their dominance. I was listening to a podcast, and I guess there was an article in Variety that the number one place that YouTube is consumed in 2025 is not your phone, is not your computer, is not like your device like an iPad. It's on television. And if you think about it, think of the percentage of younger people that like I don't view YouTube as an app in the sense of Amazon Prime or Netflix or even YouTube TV on my television. I don't watch YouTube on my television. I'm clearly I don't know if I'm necessarily the minority, but there is a large percentage of people that do, and I would imagine they all lean young. So when you look at moving forward, like this was always going to end for Fox, CBS, and NBC if they got into a bidding war with the Amazon Primes, with the Netflix, with that world, if the younger generation took over. And I don't mean consumer, I mean Stephen Jones. I mean Jonathan Kraft. Because their loyalty to this, like, this is ultimately a business. And ultimately, they can convince their fathers as well as, like, they're offering us double what this operation is offering us. And I always thought that was going to be the downfall of Fox and NBC because they can't get into a bidding war with Netflix or Apple. Those people have more money than them. And those people can write a check that they simply cannot. So when this opt out happens, and after seeing the NBA package, their ratings diminished by half within the decade, and they more than doubled their package. And obviously, it's the power of live rights. The NBA is a little different. The NFL, there's just a lot more inventory on a nightly basis. But the power of the NFL speaks for itself. It's the number one television show in America. And I just think Netflix, the NFL didn't do that Christmas Day deal randomly. Like, it's not only a trial run, it's like, let's start kind of feeling each other out. How many of you guys listening that are in sales or in some business, you go to some random dinner sometimes with maybe competing brands or maybe people that you're not even in business with to kind of kick off the relationship. And then it just kind of organically grows over time. And then now you look back 5, 10 years later, you're like, God, we're doing a lot of business together. We're making a shitload of money. That was the best, golf trip I've ever taken in my life. That was the right move. That it was a good thing that we offered them Super Bowl ticket, whatever business you're in, to take care of someone else. And that's essentially what the NFL did with the Christmas Day games. Now, they had to pay for it, but it's like, hey, wet your beak. And what did Netflix do? They're like, God damn, we got 25, 30 million people to watch these games. And this is why my theory of the NFL going international is not about placing a team anymore in the UK or Germany or Brazil or wherever. It's really about building the audience so when these games are on Netflix, people over there watch, because I see it with my own product, right? When I was on local radio, no one in Brazil, no one in England, no one in Japan on an Air Force base listened to me. People that listened to me lived in the greater Bay Area. And honestly, our signal didn't go that far. So you had to be within, I don't know, whatever the mile radius was, but it wasn't that big relative to the other station. Well, in the world I'm in now, I got fucking people listening to me all over the place. And you talk about the NFL, it's like, why can't the dude, living in Germany that likes football watch my game? Well, he can if it's on Netflix. Do you know where he can't? If it's on Fox. And I just think it's going to be a major, major problem for these traditional legacy brands. This is why I've defended the Peacock situation. It's not ideal that you had to pay for Peacock to watch, what was it, the playoff game, the Dolphins against was it the Chiefs a couple years ago. I think there was one. Was there one this year too? Like, I get people being mad. I do, but NBC cannot survive with NBC. So they couldn't just put it on NBC and be like, oh, we're going to be good for the next 10, 20, 30 years. They will die. So the only chance for their survival, and I'm not like, NBC doesn't pay me any money. I just understood where they were coming from, is like Peacock working out. Like, if it doesn't work out, NBC will go night night, as in like never waking up. And these streaming platforms for these people has to operate and has to work, because if it doesn't, they cannot. And listen, they're never going to compete against Netflix. Netflix is all these people wrapped up into one. One of my great investing regrets was like 5 years ago when I like loved the company and realized, God, everyone is watching this, not doing it. And everything they've done kind of has turned to gold. And the irony too is I don't even think their content is that great. It's like I go on there sometimes, like there's a million shows, like we end up not even watching anything. Yet I do believe that most people, their first move now is to go to Netflix. The power of the brand, it's massive. And they've had a long time building it up, but now they have a ton. Their war chest of cash is so big, and they want this. Like, this is something they're very serious about. Because the live events thing, whether it's the Tyson Jake Paul thing, whether it's the Brady roast, obviously the Christmas games, they like the returns on those things, because a lot of people, like, they're a worldwide brand. And I think the one thing the NFL showed them on Christmas, which is it doesn't get much better, everyone's home, but they're no dummies. They know a ton of people would watch if they had one of the Sunday afternoon packages. And I would fully expect, I would bet a lot of money right now that Netflix is, by whatever the date is, whether it's 28, 29, who knows, uh, and the NFL looks to re up their packages, that we go to Netflix on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday night. But Sunday, and we already know the international game, and Roger has talked about this, that there is going to be a full slate of international games. So basically, instead of 6 or 7, there's going to be like 15. Well, that's going to be sold as an individual package as well. So, which I don't love, because, and listen, there's a first world problem. I could be fucking digging ditches, but like that's a long football day. If you got a football game starting for us on the West Coast at 6:30 a.m. till basically 9:30 at night, it's just a lot of day. This is a lot of time watching ball. Now, luckily, the Sunday morning games have been kind of crappy over the years, so you can kind of pick and choose. But uh, no one cares about where I stand on that. But that's coming, and that's guess what that's going to be. It's going to be a standalone package. Well, they've sold Amazon for whatever, $1 billion a year for Thursday night games. Well, what do you think they'll sell the standalone morning game international for? A lot of money. What do you think they'll sell the individual game to Netflix once a day? Maybe Netflix just gets their own game on Sunday, and maybe Fox and CBS can continue with Jim Nance and Buck, and I guess Buck and Aikman are gone. I guess Brady. So it's just get ready. Like change is inevitable in business because the consumer, back to the YouTube thing, think about 5 years ago, the way we talked about YouTube. It was important, but it's nowhere near the power of it is now. Like things people want to ask me, like, what do you want to do with your career? Like, I don't know. I work in a business that changes every 10 minutes. I just want to keep having the access or having people have ability to access me wherever that is. If YouTube were to die tomorrow, it's not going to, and something else started and it was clearly going to work, I'd get on that. I don't really care. I'm not emotional about any of these platforms, but certain platforms are really powerful. And the way that we consume everything has changed dramatically in 5 years. If you would have told me 5 years ago, I was paying $300-400 for cable. I don't even have a cable box in my television, and I make my living off watching television and talking about it. Think about that. I don't even have a cable box in my house, and I make a living off television. So, like, that tells you everything you need to know. And if you have the opportunity, and I spent a lot of money on getting this house wired, like, I would highly recommend YouTube TV. If you guys want to advertise on the show, holler at us, Google. But because I'm a user of the product, it fucking works. It's sweet. It is awesome. And obviously, YouTube TV now has the NFL package. It was just a seamless transition for me. But yeah, man, I just it's crazy. And last but not least, I guess they caught the guys that robbed Kelce and Mahomes, and it was the Chilean gang. Well, the Chilean gang, my where my brother lives in Davis, California, which is right next to Sacramento, there were a bunch of homes robbed, and he lives on a golf course, and his house wasn't robbed, but the dude right across the kind of the course was, and there were like two or three other homes in the area robbed. One guy actually because they all play golf together. One guy had, I mean, a decent amount of cash. One of those old school like sock drawers. Like, wait, you had $85,000 in cash in your fucking sock drawers? Like, what is this 1968? Like, hey, Ray Liotta called. Like, you put it in a bank, buddy. But obviously Rolexes. But it came out that it was the Chilean gangs. And then where I live, kind of right up the street from me, there were some robberies at a super nice kind of country club area, and guys like didn't necessarily come up the golf course, but these things in the desert called the wash. So you basically your home backs up to deserty areas, and a bunch of high end super rich people got jacked, and they eventually caught them, and they were both in Davis and in Scottsdale, both Chilean gangs. And the Chilean gangs are running this operation of sending people here, and they rob your homes, and they typically do it. I don't know the specifics on the Kelce, Joe Burrow, that kind of crew, but like in Davis and in Scottsdale, and I think they hit a super nice area in was it Minnesota or Michigan as well, is they do it during like the time when you leave your house to walk your dog from like 4 to 6, and they're in and out, and they basically case the joint through a wash or through like some area where they can just run away, but they're not like locked and loaded with weapons. Basically, the Chileans understood that if we get arrested, especially in the last like 4 years, you wouldn't get any trouble. Especially if you're not packing heat, you're not going to take anyone down. You get released on bond, you're out of the country. But they've been getting away with it for a long time, and they clearly attacked some of these high-end NFL players. And the Chilean gang like are operating a pretty high-level operation. Hopefully, it comes to an end, but they have been hitting people high-end neighborhoods all over the country. So if you're gonna walk your dog, man, you got to keep an eye, make sure there's not anyone looking over the fence because these people will rob you, and they'll be in and out of your house. I mean, I saw some of the video because my brother knows all these guys that hit his neighbors. I mean, they were in and out in like 3 or 4 minutes. Like they are not casing your entire house; they're going right to the master bedroom, and typically, hoping to get bags, watches. if you're dumb enough, and listen, I'm not, we're all a little different, but I think in this modern day society, and who knows, maybe I get, this huge banking hack and I lose all my money. But if you have, I'm all for keeping a little cash on you, but the people that have like $100,000 in cash in their sock drawer, it's one thing if you have like a legit gun safe and you got cash in there. It's like, okay, I get it. I know a lot of people that do that. No one could get in and it's bolted to the ground. You can't even get it out. But if you're one of those people with like, yeah, I got 75K in my dress socks. It's like, yeah, I don't know if that's the best idea. But who knows? Maybe to each his own.